And I was like, I'll never be the greatest lawyer, right? And there was a moment I was selling banana bread in a banana costume in my law school library at finals time. And everyone was looking at me like I was crazy. And I was having so much fun with it. And I was looking at everyone else like they were crazy. At the company I ran, we said authenticity is king. I'll say, and I'll start back in Techstars. We went through Techstars, and we were trying to be fancy. We were trying to use all these business words, and we didn't know what we were talking about. And someone just told us, her name was Chris, and she's like, just be yourself. Just plant your flag, be yourself, and the people that you're going to attract, and the people that will be repelled will be repelled. And just stop trying to use all these fancy words that you don't know what they mean, right? And you're like, oh, thank you, okay. And it was really good advice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Alone Together. This one, I'm super excited. I'm excited for all of them, but we've been trying to do this with Ethan Austin from outside for, I don't know, about 3 months now, trying to get together. Ethan and I got to know each other. I actually could switch hats. I have my Camp Hustle hat here. Where do we meet, Ethan?
We met at Camp Hustle on the way to an airport. Thank you, Mike Ma.
The back of what was it driving like a Toyota Celica or something?
I had no way of getting back to that airport. There was no cell reception. There was no Uber. It was either Mike Ma or I was going to sleep at Camp Hustle. So thank you. It was a great way. I met Haley in the back of that car too. We were all squished together, and I think we've co-invested multiple times now since then. And that was a great car ride.
It was a great car ride. It was me, you, Haley Bryant, new partner at Hustle Fund.
Yeah.
Who else was in that?
Mike McCombie.
Mike McCombie from Generous Ventures, who's been a podcast.
I can't remember who else. It was a lot of it. It was a bunch of us back
I think
there.
we had someone else in there because we definitely violated.
Someone was in the front seat. It was all the small people in the back seat. I don't remember who was in the front seat.
Anyways, I think needless to say, and sorry for viewers for the banter, I think what I think about Ethan, I think about someone who's just incredibly generous, incredibly fun, and incredibly different in the VC world. And so I'm honored that you're on. I'm also honored to call you a friend. So I'm really just looking forward to having more time just to hang out and get to know each other a little bit better as people, not just as investors.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. All of those things are true. No one's ever said incredibly humble, but thanks for having me on. I'm thrilled to be here and glad to call you a friend as well, dude.
Very cool, man. Hey, why don't you for the people who don't know, and they should, tell us a little bit about Outside and the fund itself, and then we're going to get into all the stuff from taco suits to Santa Barbara and Chicago and stuff like this. But just can you do a little level set and do us the honor of telling us about Outside and the fund, and then we'll get into the childhood trauma of why you decided to become a phone GP.
That's the good stuff, totally. Sure, Outside VC. So we are a pre-seed first check-in fund. I think we've been the first check-in in 45% of the investments. Sometimes we'll lead, but usually we'll participate. We're on fund 2. We're writing $250 to $750K checks into $1 million rounds typically, and we're doing financial inclusion and climate. Those are the 2 areas we invest in, and then we invest in outsiders. And for us, outsiders are people who are just kind of thinking about things differently. They're the people who do things differently and approach the world kind of from first principles and don't care what other people are doing. But they usually have some unique insights into the world, either from a lived experience or just kind of their approach to life is just kind of quirky or different than everyone else's. And those are the folks that we look for. And so, we're typically backing what we call outsider founders. Sometimes they're under networked and brilliant and don't know who to be talking to. And I think in Fund 1, 24, 28 of our companies came through network, but so far in Fund 2, almost all are coming inbound. And so we're totally open to people without networks reaching out to us, and we try and look through all the deals that come through.
I want to jump on the last part about being an outsider. When I think about that, that's you, ranging from your LinkedIn posts to putting your family in there as center of your investor communications and your newsletter, which, by the way, if you're listening and don't find a way on this newsletter, you absolutely should. Why do you care about being an outsider? First of all, is it fair to call you yourself, Ethan Austin, an outsider? As your friend, I put that as a badge of honor on how I think about you. But do you see yourself that way?
I do, in the sense that like I've never done things the way anyone else would tell you this is the way you should do things. And so like I started a company out of college or out of grad school with my partner Desiree Vargas Wrigley, and she started out of school. She worked at the Kauffman Foundation for a few years, but like neither of us had any real work experience. And like when we started it, and so like there was nothing for us to base how we were doing things on, and we were just everything was like a clean slate. We just kind of did things from first principles, like how we thought you should do things. And like we would write in our investor updates. I remember writing one of our first investor updates, and we had investors who had their names on buildings, and one of them would become a governor, like JB Pritzker would become a governor, and the founder of Techstars, and like all these people that we thought were like fancy. And I wrote this update, and the very first one was called "The Power of Hugs." And I remember like I wanted to crawl under my desk after I sent it, because I was like, all these people who are like accomplished have taken companies public, and like we're writing about the power of hugs. And I think David Cohen wrote back, he's like, I love this. And like it kind of gave me the freedom to say, okay, like keep just being your weird self and do things the way you think that they should be done versus the way everyone else is going to do them. And I think that's how like outsiders think. They just kind of do whatever they think is right, and it looks unorthodox to everyone else. And sometimes it just works. Most of the time it probably doesn't work. Most of the time it fails. And I think sometimes it works. And so I like backing outsiders in that sense. And when you say outsider insider, a lot of our outsiders, are I talked to them. I asked one of them. I said, "Are you insider or outsider?" This is a dude, MIT engineering grad, and he's like, I consider myself an insider now because I went to MIT and have been afforded so many opportunities because of that. He's like, I grew up in a trailer in the middle of Pennsylvania, and like I was a super nerd. And he's like, I didn't know anyone that was like me in any regards until I got to MIT and I found my people of like other super nerds.
Yeah.
And so like I think everyone, honestly, at some point in their life feels like an outsider.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, try this on for size. And I'm going to ask about your childhood so you can like, why did you become this way? But I think being an outsider is a mindset, not an identity or a history. We're all outsiders. And it's this mindset that of how you approach and look at the world and head cocked and having the courage you talk about to just be you. Uh, could I go back in a lot of other pods and it was fun to doing a little research on my friend. You talk a lot about your childhood and you talk a lot about you also later talk about your own kids' childhood, which we're going to get to as well. But is there a moment that you can point to or a couple moments in growing up where you felt like, yeah, you know what? This outsider thing is me. And do you have any demonstrations of descriptions or stories that may
For being a
lead
kid,
someone to understand like how you got to be where you are on this outsider journey?
I don't know. I can't think of, like examples per se from childhood, but I can say like early on in like college, like all of our friends in college were going to, a lot of them were at like undergraduate business school, and they were all going to like Wall Street. And I remember there was like a handful of us. I went to college in Atlanta, and there was a handful of us from California randomly that were friends, and like we'd all studied abroad. And when we were like, well, what the fuck are we gonna do? We don't have no idea what we're gonna do. We're all liberal arts majors, and like we'd all traveled and studied abroad. We're like, why don't we go open a hostel? And that was like the most foreign. When we decided, we came real close, and they ended up doing it, to opening a hostel in Panama. It was as foreign as an idea as like anyone, I don't know, could have thought it. My Jewish grandmother and parent mom was like, whispering in my ear, like, don't do that. And the whisper was more like, don't do that. It was a loud whisper. Like that's not a great idea to do that. But I think, I don't know. I don't know what I would say caused it. It was more like I don't like to be put in a box, I think. I never have like been, told what to do. And I kind of bristle at people telling me what to do. So I don't know if it's not like contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. I just have trouble with authority, I think. Sorry.
It's okay.
And so I don't know. It's hard to say it, but it's I think not wanting to be told what to do is probably, the thing that I'd say like has always been inherent more so than something specific that shaped it.
Tell me about your parents then, as people who have the job of telling you what to do. How did they deal with that? I'm curious about if there's anything in there that leads to this today.
Yeah. Um, my dad died when I was a kid. My dad died when I was 12, which I think obviously shapes who you are as a person. It's hard to say if it's easy to say on a podcast like this shaped my life. It's hard to know if that shaped it at the time or it's an easy story to tell, right? Looking back, I think that did as I got older shape a lot of things in my life of realizing like when my dad died when he was 48, 49 and like he had stage 4 cancer and like your moment could come at any time. And if you're not enjoying your life, if you're not doing the things that like bring you joy, what are we really doing here? Because like we're all here for such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that shaped me as a kid. It certainly shaped me as an adult, I think, as just kind of like my worldview of like, my personal mantra is have fun, do good, help others. And like if you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying it, I don't know, you're just not maximizing the time we have here. And I don't take any of the time we have here for granted. So I
Mm.
think my dad certainly shaped me in that way. And then my mom was so supportive. I was teasing. She wasn't really. If I wanted to do the hostel, she would have been supportive of that hostel. She's just open and supportive of like, just doing, of whatever things were going to make you happy. And so I think she wanted me to finish the bar. I failed the bar when I first took the bar, had like a panic attack on the bar exam and failed the bar. And she encouraged me to take it again. But when I was like, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to start a company, she was pretty supportive of that. So, um, I think I'd have parents that were, you have to do this or you have to do that. I know that's the story of a lot of people whose parents really pushed them in a certain direction. I think it was the generation before, my grandmother probably did to my dad and my uncle. But I think I did have like the freedom to kind of, you know, go a different path. And thanks to my mom and, on that front.
We kind of glossed over something. So law school and bar, right? And there's the Jewish side, the Asian side, be a doctor. So I have some of that as well. It sounds like you tried conformity a little
I
bit, or at
did. I
least
did. I mean, like I did.
how does that feel? How did it feel to do the conform?
Uh, is I went to law school when for the same reason everyone goes to law school. They're a liberal arts major and they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'll do more school. Um, and I had a lot of lawyers in my family, and there was parts of it I really liked. Like I worked for the Natural Resources Defense Council in law school, and I really thought maybe I'd do environmental law. And there's parts of it I liked. I think there was a moment in law school when I realized I'd been pretty good at school up until law school, and I was like, I wasn't like amazing at it, and I wanted to do something I was going to be like great at, and I was like, I'll never be the greatest lawyer, right? And there was a moment I was selling banana bread in a banana costume in my law school library at finals time, and everyone was looking at me like I was crazy, and I was having so much fun with it, and I was looking at everyone else like they were crazy. It was probably at that moment I was like, I know for a fact I'm not going to be doing this. I had come home my first year of law school and told my mom I want to be a river raft guide. She's like, okay, good luck with that, and good luck paying those loans back. And I think she would have let me if I wanted to, but I think there's probably multiple moments when I knew I was not going to be a lawyer. I was just always doing weird stuff that was I thought more fun.
So it sounds like you felt okay. I have this image of you in a law library selling banana bread in a banana costume. Like, is that
I was
you
selling
had?
banana bread. I was running a marathon for children's cancer and for St. Jude, and I was trying to raise money for it, and I was coming up with all these weird creative ways. I was running on the streets of DC in a banana costume and handing out flyers to people to donate to my fundraising page. And I said, why don't I just go to my law school library? That seems like another source of donations. And so I went to the library and sold banana bread in the banana costume. That was why I was there.
Okay, I just want to take a beat. You say these things like they're so well. I was running a marathon. Okay, I run marathons. I've raised money for it. It's like at never any point, and I consider myself a little bit weird. Have I thought, you know what would do it? Banana costume, selling banana bread. How do all these neurons connect in Ethan's brain to make all this happen? Because you say them like they're so matter, 1 + 1 is 2, the grass is green, the sky is blue. I ran a marathon and I have a banana costume. I'm actually really, I'm not trying to interrogate you because in all honesty, as a marketer, like there's a real genius in what you're doing. I
The
just I would love a
I'll
little
tell you
glimmer of it.
the genesis of it was it was a little bit of opportunism and a little bit of cockroachism. It was I'd started the fundraising page and I was like, oh, I hit $1,000 pretty quickly. I was like, oh wow, that was great. And then maybe $1,500, and so I upped the goal to 5,000 from 2,500. And then I like hit a limit, right? I just didn't. It stopped working. I had reached out to all the people I knew, and that was where it got me. And so I said, what am I going to do to be more creative? When you're fundraising, it's just like fundraising for a fund. We were talking about this the other day. It's just touch points. It's like you got to keep asking people for money. And it's like with donations, it's like they say it's like the sixth time you ask is when people donate because it's not top of mind. And so I needed a reason to continue bugging people without feeling bad about bugging them. And I figured I had this banana costume from Halloween. And, I was pretty poor and I've always been pretty cheap. I'm like, I paid $60 for this. I got one use out of it. How can I get some extra use out of this? And so I just like having fun. I do a lot of things to entertain myself. And if other people laugh, then great. But it's mostly like I get a kick out of this stuff. So I put the banana costume on and handed out flyers. And I started telling people if I got to $5,000, I'd run the marathon in a banana costume. And it was just a shenanigan to get people, so I wouldn't feel bad about sending more emails to them. And I'd make little videos. And like, I figured if I gave them something, if I made them laugh in the video, then I don't feel bad about continually asking for money when they're just ghosting me. And so it's just a gimmick to kind of not feel bad about, continuing to bug people on a non-drip campaign. Uh, and so that was the genesis of it. And then it was just fun. I mean, when you run around a banana costume, you get two different types of people. You get the people that look at you like, what is this person doing? And then the people that immediately get it and want to high five you and say, yes, you just made my day. And like, that's the fun part, because running the marathon is one thing, but I did all my training runs in the banana costume. And you're
You did
running
all
through
your training runs in a banana costume?
pretty much all of them. Yeah. And because it was fun. You run down the street and you just make people happy. And like, there was times I'd run through. So this was funny. I ran through this Best Buy a couple of times that was just on my street in Chicago. And it's wild when people were in Best Buy. You could run through in a banana costume and literally no one saw that a banana costume just ran through the store. People were so engrossed with whatever they were doing that you could literally run through the store and like no one noticed. But it was just fun. Yeah, it's just a weird, fun thing to do.
Let me take that for a second. Can you draw a line between Ethan in the law library, banana costume, Best Buy training runs to Ethan the investor today? What does that through line look like in terms of how you ever interpret that person to where you are now at Fund 2? What are some of the important through points if you connect those lines?
Yeah, I think it goes down to like one of my core values as a human is joy. And when I was running a company, one of our core values at our company, our mantra is create unexpected joy. And I've seen that there's just not enough play and enough joy in people's lives in general. Like we just take ourselves so seriously. When I was creating this firm, I went back to, I was thinking of like when I was a founder, we were backed by First Round Capital. First Round's a great firm, like everyone knows First Round. And if you ask me like why I wanted them to be on our cap table, it wasn't because they were stellar investors. It was back then, this is like 2010. They made these funny Christmas videos and they'd sing in the Christmas videos with their portfolio companies, and they just seemed goofy. Like in a way, like they're obviously smart and capable and talented, but they didn't seem like they took themselves so seriously. And that stood out in my mind. And when I started this firm, I was like, I want to build a firm that people are going to run through walls to want to work with. And I pitched them in 2009, 2010. Like when I say pitched, I sent emails to them. I got respectful declines. 2012, they led our seed round, or co-led our seed round. But like I ran through a wall to work with them, and it wasn't because they were stellar. It was because they seemed fun. And so going back to the banana costume and going back to joy and having fun, when I started outside VC, I wanted to do it the same way, where I've seen in my life, like, you don't need to compete, I think, from on a venture firm standpoint of like proving you're the smartest or you have the best thesis or whatever. I think people, at least founders, LPs are different. LPs want to know you're smart. Like they don't care how fun you are. I think founders want to know, who is this person I'm going to work with, and like, am I going to enjoy working with them? And I think it gives you a leg up when you actually have a personality and you just show it, and you're not just kind of, I don't know, bottled up and just trying to sound smart all the time.
Now we can get, I love this background and we can kind of get tactical. What are some of the things that you do to showcase the fun and the joy? What are the things that you find most effective? And I'll separate a two-parter since you did it, one for LPs and one for founders. So let's talk about the LP one first, because it's easy to talk about the founder piece. And you just,
What do we do for LPs? That's fun.
yeah.
So I'll send a monthly update out. So again, like going back to like people telling you what to do and me being like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like my first LP, who I have the most respect for, and is like a mentor, and he's an LP in like 50 funds and had his own fund. Like just respect him in every regard. He's like, nobody wants a monthly update. Just trust me. He's like, don't send that. And I was like, okay. And then I sent it because I was like, I don't care what everyone wants. I'm going to do this. And the only thing, so like our investors, I send a monthly update, and then more traditionally, like a boring quarterly update that, no one wants to read. It's like 10 pages. And the monthly update is just kind of more like a startup update. It's like bullet points. It's short. You can get through it in 2 minutes. But occasionally there's jokes in it. And I think that's the thing that keeps people reading it. And it's like my goal was to make it not boring, right? Like the goal of that isn't, LP relations. It's not like here's the performance. It's marketing email. That's like, okay, that's how I got a lot of deal flow, because people like, you stay top of mind. And the goal was to be, Ethan seems like he'd be fun to hang out with. I'm going to send him this deal. And like, he's top of mind. And like, I feel good after reading this email, because occasionally there's something silly in there and there's an Easter egg in it. And like, no one cares about your no one cares about the updates. I can tell them about, oh, this company's killing it. This one, just went from pre-seed to Series C. It's never been done before. And they're like, oh, but that funny joke at the bottom. And so that's the thing I think, that is just different than everything else. There's lots of updates out there and they all say the same things. And like, that mine updates are not always funny, but once in a while they'll say something funny. And I think that's why people come back to them.
I mean, they're the ones I appreciate the most, and I'm glad to get in, ranging from the discussions you have. Another banana joke, right? You evoked the banana joke of saying you were merging, you're merging with banana. I read the whole thing, and then it was your April Fool's newsletter, right?
It was an April Fool's newsletter. I did have a lot of LPs, and I did have a lot of fallout from that, being like, I'm gonna have to explain this for a while, because
it was a little too good. It was a little too real.
Too good, yeah.
And then for people, for the listeners home, I'll just try and level set. Either wrote an update on and basically saying you were merging with Banana Capital.
And I hadn't told Turner I was doing it ahead of time, and he
And
just went
Turner
with it.
Novak, and I don't know Turner, only on Twitter, etc. And Turner
He
Novak
was he
updated.
was nice enough to just be like, "Oh yeah, congratulations! Like we're merging." He just rolled with it. Parts
And
of that was true. Parts of it, a lot of that post was true. That's why I did actually look up the name Banana Capital and found that like, how is there someone else in the universe who actually has taken the name Banana Capital? Maybe there's too much VC out there. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. It's like we've jumped the shark. Yeah. So I'll tell you another thing I've done in those updates is I have a friend who's an LP, and I've just pranked him my entire life. And I've written entire LP updates that were just trolling him with stories. And those are the updates that people honestly respond to. Like a story about how my friend on a snowboarding trip from Tahoe in high school missed the greatest thing of all time, which all of us saw except for him. Jason Owen is his name. If anyone wants to look him up and mention it on LinkedIn to him or anything like that, you can. Uh, how a cow jumped over another cow and he missed the entire thing. And I don't know. I lost an LP because of that, and I was like, I'm okay with that because it was fun, and I probably didn't want that LP for fun too anyway.
I can I give you some praise as well, and also I want to wrap that praise in terms of what I think may be instructive for there are either other GPs or raising or aspiring GPs. The part that I really admire about you is, on one hand, you have this levity and irreverence and quirkiness. On the other hand, too, in all your communications, I'd love for you to talk about how you balance authenticity. You're very vulnerable. You put your kids in. I've taken a page out of your playbook. I don't know if it was if you know this, but I put a post about my daughter graduating, and that was inspired by you, my friend, because you take that irreverence and you counterbalance it with authenticity and vulnerability. I was wondering if you can say a little bit about tactically how you've done it, and then I would love the behind the play commentary of, is it strategic? Is it happenstance? Is it when it moves you? How do you think about that? It's something I've really, why I feel so drawn to you as a friend and as a co-investor. Does that resonate with you? And then how do you create it if so?
So like the authenticity and like what the reason behind it and like how. Um, yeah, I think that's another one of my core values, and was one of our core values at the company I ran. We said authenticity is king. Um, I'll say, and I'll start back in Techstars. We went through Techstars, and we were trying to be fancy. We were trying to like use all these business words, and we didn't know what we were talking about. And someone just told us, her name was Chris, and she's like, just be yourself. Like, just plant your flag, be yourself, and the people that you're going to attract are you're going to attract, and the people that will be repelled. And like, just stop trying to use all these fancy words that you don't know what they mean. Right. And you're like, oh, thank you. Okay. And it was really good advice. And like, I think we forget that sometimes, right? Like that I think like there's so many sayings like, right, like I can be the best Ethan, I can't be the best anything else, right? And it's like you're either going to, you know, attract the people you're going to attract because of who you are, or you're not. But like it's so much easier to do that when you're just kind of being yourself. And as far as posting, what I always tell people, I probably wouldn't post all that much if I wasn't doing like a firm. So like it's definitely strategic, right? It's like definitely on purpose because I have no money, I have nothing to market. Like, how do you market? You just share yourself. And it's like you try and build some type of personal brand because that scales a lot faster than firm brand. Right. And it's just you have better reach. The authenticity, is probably both imposter syndrome, right? Like I feel silly trying to sound smart. Right. I'm like, oh, there's just people who are smarter than me at this. Like, I'm not going to say stuff that's smarter than anyone else. And like, so you say stuff that just no one else can replicate, which is just like stuff that's true to you and authentic and real. And then I tell folks like, I think the best way to like build, I would say like not a personal brand. That's not the right word, but like you have to be memorable. You have to be like I had an old boss that would say, sometimes better is better, but sometimes different is better.
Yeah.
Better than
Can
better.
can can I, like, look? and I'm going to push you a little bit here. Like I always hate these podcasts that tell you like, oh, like be yourself, be authentic. Do you have like, can you give us some examples of things that worked for you? Like, hey, I did this and I thought this was a good, authentic first, and it helped my firm in some way. And then I'm going to ask you one that didn't work, where you went too far or not far enough. So I'm just going to preview that question.
Well, here's like my fundraising deck right now, and it was the same for Fund One. There's a picture of me in banana costume, and I say like be authentic. I'm like that is the most authentic thing. But then what I was gonna say is like take it to 11, right? Like it's like don't do anything inauthentic, but just kind of like not ham it up, but like own it, right? And like I put the banana costume in, and I remember I went through this program, Recast Capital,
Yeah.
and Courtney's fantastic, and she had we were actually at Camp Hustle, and she was reviewing decks, and I was in the audience there, and she's like, Ethan, she sees me, and she said, Ethan, you know what I like about his deck? There's a picture of him in a banana costume in the deck, and it's like that's just different than every other deck I've ever seen. No other deck has it. And it's like everyone else has the pedigree. And like if you see 1,000 decks with people from Stanford, they all look the same, right? It's like okay, another deck. But the thing with the dude in the banana costume, like at least that's memorable, right? And it's like when you see 1,000 of them and they all tell the same story, at least you're doing something that's memorable. And so like that, I was always a little like I don't know if this is going to work or not going to work, but the reason I put it in there was what she said, and I was like, oh, good, some validation. Now, where I do get scared sometimes is like that worked when I was pitching all of people I know and like friends and like on a fund one when it's essentially friends and family. And like you get to more institutional, at least what I'm trying to do now, does that still work? I don't know. And like sometimes I'm fearful of being myself and like, is that going to resonate with someone who's graduated from Princeton as and has spent their whole life like as an allocator, and like do they care about you in a banana costume, or does that just look stupid? So like I don't know, like maybe in some contexts that's a win, in other contexts that same thing can be a flop, and I'm not really sure, but
All
it's in
right.
my fun two deck too.
Well, okay. Now, okay. That was what I was going to ask you for the receipts. Like,
Yeah, no, it's there. I'm going
so
for it.
you've chosen to just, screw
And
it.
own it. Yeah, screw it. I don't know.
But it's good to know that those, I mean, like, look, for the people who are listening, it's good to know that those doubts still,
Oh yeah.
that little guy here is like, are you sure you want to do that? Still
Oh yeah,
exists.
totally. I mean, like I I lost. Well, I don't. My check writers were small for fund one. It's $6.5 million fund. The biggest check writers, except for one check, were all like 250K, and I lost a 250K check who told me, "I don't care, about your mom and your friends, and like I don't want to see pictures of them. Like I don't like your updates." And I told him it was it's it was fine, right? I didn't know the person. It wasn't a friend. It was someone introduced me to this person, and I knew at points when I was writing some of these things, I'm like, I'm going to lose this person at some point, and I'm okay with that because that person gave me so much stress anyway. Like phone calls with that person were never fun, and like I always had a knot in my stomach, and I was like, and at some point I kind of fired him. I was just like, I don't want you in fun two. You're in fun one, and that's fine, but it's just too much stress in my life, and I respect some of the things he said. He's improved me in certain ways. He's made me more professional, but he just lived rent free in my head, and it wasn't worth it. And so
Yeah.
there are certain things that I've lost,
Yeah.
financially because of it.
Kudos to you. I mean, have you fired other LPs out of Fund Two? I mean, first of all,
No, no.
but that has to be worth its weight in gold, right?
What's that?
That has to be worth its weight in gold in terms of the headspace it buys you.
Yeah, it did. And there was times like in the beginning it really rattled me, and then I got to live with it, and I was like, I can coexist with this guy, and like there were certain things he really did help me with. Like he forced me to improve certain things, and like I became better because of it. What he wanted from me, like he had never invested, I don't think, in a fund as early as mine. He was invested in a bunch of like funds that were on fund four and had like 10 people and 15 people at the firms, and like it had associates just doing IR. And he's like, it was like me wanting a pre-seed company to report out like a Series C company. And
Right.
I'm like, I'm not there. I'm one person. Even if you wanted me to, I couldn't do that. And it was just like a mismatch of like, where he traditionally invested. And so it felt good because you know, it's so hard to raise 250K. Like
Yes,
it's just hard. It didn't feel great to do that, but it felt good to be able to, to be able to clear up that headspace. It's not worth it.
I commend you. I that would hurt. You seem to have
It did
gotten
hurt.
over it quickly. But I don't know, man. I would, that would hurt. Again, if anyone's listening and knows what it feels like on uh, to lose an LP that is 4% of your
Yeah.
company, 4% of your that, bro, that hurts.
Yeah,
Um,
did hurt, but it felt good. I had enough conversations with my wife that I'm gonna, should I do this? Should I not? And I'd gone back and forth for so long that finally, when I was able to do it, it was like, okay, yeah, I just feel lighter now.
Let me ask a question. We'll move on. The second part is like, do you ever do it when it's gone too far? Has Ethan Austin ever gone too much banana?
Yeah, I have.
That came.
I have. It wasn't in a professional. It wasn't in a professional setting. It was. I've given a lot of wedding speeches, and I really ham it up at these wedding speeches, and I kind of roast, my friends who are getting married, and at the best man speeches, there are times where you get, that was the best man speech I have ever heard, and you get that, and you get a little confidence there, and then I did a eulogy once,
So
that
seems.
I think I took it too far, and I was like, oh, I took that too far, didn't I? And Mike, Mike, you just have your head like this, yeah.
Um, Maybe I would love for myself, selfishly first, and then other listeners can tag along on the benefit. What are, as you move from Fund One into Fund Two? What are the biggest learnings you had? You're looking to improve into Fund Two, and then I'm just curious about how would you relay some of that to someone who's looking to get into this racket?
I think one of them, and this is specific to being a solo GP. So for context, I'm a solo GP. I have no one else helping me.
Yeah, this is
So,
and by the way, Alone Together,
yeah,
man. This is
no, right.
this everyone who's listening, all dozens of you know what you signed up for.
So I would say like the biggest learning is is just being good at a few things. And like I describe myself as perpetually drowning, right? And both from work and 3 kids. And it's just like I can't do all the things, and you get FOMO. It's like, oh, I want to, I think I want to go to Camp Hustle again this year. I couldn't go. Or I want to go do all these things, and it's like you can't be good at all the things. And like I've tried to just be good at a very limited amount of things, and just kind of lean into the things I'm good at. That's been helpful, and like letting, being comfortable with things being shitty, like just letting fires burn and focusing on like the few things that are the most critical. Like my website and my website and my domain, my email are two different things, which is like objectively insane. My website is outside-vc.com, and my email address is ethan@outsideventurecapital.com. Like that is malpractice. Like that is embarrassing. And I'm like, and it's been like that for 3 years. And I'm like, well, I'm just letting fires burn. I'd say like that's just been an important thing that I think has worked. Like leaning into the things that are actually working. Like I think in startups too, like not enough people double down on the thing that's working.
Can I not? I don't want to let you off the hook there because I feel like domain stuff is vanity stuff. I'm curious about what's been a tough thing for you to say, screw it, let this burn. I can't be good at all of it. What have been the tough calls where you've had to dispense with it? And I'm not letting you off the hook on this one because I think domain nomenclature
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
registers
I
like
mean,
it too. Give me
yeah,
give me some real stuff, man.
yeah. I'm 8 years into being an investor, and I was telling one of my LPs yesterday, I'm like, I still feel like I'm learning. 8 years in, like we were on a call the other day, Mike, and we were talking about like just like process is a shit show. Like I feel like I say this all the time, and I do pass emails that I usually try and tell founders, hey, I passed not because you're too early, not because of this. I passed because of timing, right? I passed because I just made 2 investments and I don't have more capital till the fall to invest. Well, the
Ooh.
reality is like, hey, guess what? You came into this meeting when we were already in funnel with like 8 other companies. And so the bar for you was way higher than it was for them. And like most founders don't understand any of that. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that like the decisions you make are sometimes so arbitrary and my process sucks. Right. And like, it's not systematic. It's not apples to apples always. And sometimes you wonder, lots of deal flow, great. Weeding them out or picking the best in a apples to apples comparison with a really great process, like not there yet. I don't know how much better we'd be picking, right? Like to think that at pre-seed anyone can be like a really good picker is a little bit of hubris, I think, sometimes of it's just hard to do that. I think, right, at least. But sometimes it doesn't feel good to sometimes think like, oh, this person, I invest in this company based on timing more than anything else, and that I think happens more than not.
Yeah. I agree, right? There's this artifice or story or lore that I don't know, we're all these VCs were all like in the matrix, like looking at everything and are all seeing and all knowing. This is a conversation I had with one of my founders. It's like, nope, we put our pants on one leg at a time. We have holes. And I actually spend a lot of time. I don't know what you do, but I try to explain the business of VC to a founder because when I was a founder or raising, there's so much like, oh God, that's why that happened. And so I appreciate you just being, yeah, you just said investment process and timing is the one you just,
Yeah.
that's a tough one, right? Because there's an argument that says like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, I think it's fair to say we don't know. Right. And and it's weird to ask for and be definitive with LPs and even founders as well, but then also have the humility and self-awareness to be we may miss it, right? And for reasons that are not fair nor logical.
Yeah, I mean, like you think of like all like especially like solo GPs, like or anyone really. I always tell people like no one wants to do work. I'm not saying all VCs are lazy. What I'm saying is they're bandwidth constrained,
Yeah.
and like if someone comes in, I'm like, this looks really interesting, but I know nothing about this thing. Like that's going to be a lot of work for me, right? It's like okay, it could be really interesting. I could learn it, but like company B over here, I already kind of understand. Someone's pitched me something like that before I get it. I'm like, I'm passing on you most likely, not because it's not a good opportunity. It's like, seems like a lot of work and I got a lot of stuff on my plate already. It's like, do I want to spend a week trying to learn about this and diligence and clear off everything on my plate to kind of dig in on it? Or do I want to invest in this thing that I kind of already understand? And then there's like, okay, hey, I've already spent a week on in diligence on this. I have to be able to say no to it still. But like someone else is coming in and it's like they're coming in fresh and maybe they're on par or even a little bit better. But you've already spent a week on something else. You're already kind of bought into it. You're like, ah, should I just do this? And so like sometimes you think, am I making decisions, for the wrong reasons? And like, I think that can be hard sometimes.
What structure? I mean, let's talk about some solo GP stuff then. What structures do you have? It sounds like you're talking about sort of this bias and your sunk cost fallacy, and there's a whole bunch. What do you do to check yourself? How do you check you? Who do you use? What is your network? I mean, the name of this podcast is Alone Together.
Yeah. What do I do
None
to
of
check
us
it?
do this, but how do
Yeah.
you orchestrate
Yeah.
resources around you?
Yeah. So I'll usually like for our process, it's usually like a couple of meetings with the founders, and then I'll ask for whatever materials they have. Right. If I'm really going to dig in on it, I'll ask for whatever materials they have. I'll do off list references. I'll do sometimes customer calls. If it's a consumer, I'll play with the product. But then I also lean pretty heavily on my LPs. My LPs, both for necessity and strategy, there are a lot of founders, operators, and VCs. And I'll just get sanity checks on it and say, like, hey, I'm thinking about this way. You have deeper knowledge in banking or you have deeper knowledge in payments. Like, what do you think about this? And so I'll do that with usually a handful of my LPs that they've been really, really helpful in helping me diligence things. Where I'm fintech in general, they can go deep in specific areas. And so that's been, I think, really helpful. Usually they tell me it's a stupid idea. Like, oh, this is a dumb idea, which doesn't deter me from doing it, right? I think it's easy to always say poke holes in anything, but it's good to get perspective and
Yeah.
know where the blind spots are before you jump into anything.
Gotcha.
But I don't know. I mean, I think Charles Hudson once said, like, I don't have a partner because these are pre-seed companies. Like, usually you're betting on something, like some little thing that you found peculiar about the individual that stood out, that, oh, they did this thing this way. I haven't seen people doing this thing this way. Like, this is unusual. I like it. And it's like the businesses are half baked, right? They're not fully baked businesses at this point. Like, getting so many second opinions doesn't really, I don't think, add that much incremental value after a while. I think you're going on, what do I see that's a little bit different here than everything else I'm seeing, and something kind of triggers it and said, there's a spark about this person, and I
Yeah.
like this idea enough that I want to back this person and see what they do.
Yeah. As Charles was on the pod and he said, I may muck the exact, I've made the majority of my best bets writing checks to founders who had no reason to be good at whatever became good at doing.
Totally. I mean, that's part of the outsiders idea, is like, and I've said this before, is like, I don't care if someone has founder market fit. When I looked at the actual founders I'd backed, it turned out like sometimes that wasn't true. Sometimes I did care if it was kind of valuation dependent. But like, in general, like, I think we have too narrow of an aperture of understanding what good can look like. And we sometimes think like, oh, good looks like you followed this track or you had experience in this field. And I think sometimes the people that bring novel ideas to a space had no experience in that field whatsoever, had no business starting that business. I had no business starting what we started. My co-founder had no business starting what we started. And like, we ended up saving 10,000 lives because of it. And like, how can anyone predict who has business, you know, starting this
You know,
tiger?
and what I love about this, I mean, and I wish the listeners knew you as well as I do. And I like, the nuance on all this is that, and we've shared diligence on deals, like you do excellent diligence. And so in this idea of being gut focused is not without scaffolding. And I think that's one of the things I appreciate about you is that we talk a lot about the art in it, but it is, and you have the receipts. I've got to see some of them on looking at the science as well, and that's one I've really appreciated. I don't think it came through in your commentary. I think you're too one down about some of that and the work, giving yourself a C in ops and not knowing about underwriting. It's the part that I've enjoyed. I'm working with you and want to do more on, and that's the balance that I think about when I think about you. It's art and science, it's quirkiness, but also authenticity. And those are the things I've just admired from you from afar.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. I'll say sometimes I've gone down the path of too much diligence, and you can talk yourself out of good things because they always seem crazy in the beginning, and you can always find reasons to not back it. And the more people you talk to, the more people are going to tell you it's bad. And I've gone down that path before, and that's happened. And I'm like, oh, I probably should have invested in that company. Doing well now.
A,
Everyone said
a,
that was going to be.
a lot of your portfolio is my anti-portfolio. I was like, God, I wish there's
I
like,
know. I mean, early stage companies, they all are going to be. One thing I'll do sometimes too that I find is useful is ask for people's investor updates that they've been sending out if they have them. I like to see like the last 6 months. I find it more useful than whatever information is in their deck of just
Mhm.
like how have they been communicating, and like what have they been communicating, and like what are they focusing on. That's been helpful for me. As something I think, I don't know if people usually ask for that or not, but I like getting those.
Yeah. I think, I mean, Fred Wilson used to do this, right? Like at Union Square, like a founder can fake their way. They would ask for every blog post as well, or look at every blog post. And these days, it's more LinkedIn and Twitter. You can fake your way through a couple meetings, but it's hard to fake your way through
Yeah.
all of those posts. So I think that's a really smart way of looking at diligence too. Look, you and I can prattle on forever, and I'd like to finish with kind of what I call fast four, and these are the things that I finish with. So you ready for kind of short, quasi punchy answers. You can expound a little bit, but
No. I'm no one's ever accused me of being pithy, so I'll try and be as short as possible.
tell me about, in the context of the fund, the best day you've had. Describe that day for me as pithily as you can.
It was I did an AGM, an annual general meeting where you bring your LPs, and I did a founder summit, and just bringing everyone together like that. There's so much alone time. It's like you're so like I loved being around people when I was building a company. Like the loneliest thing is like I'm a lone wolf here. Bringing all the people together in one room, and we did it for 2 or 3 days in Boulder. That was so fun. I love that. That brought me a lot of joy.
That's awesome. Tell me about the worst day you've had with outside.
Worst day. I don't know if there was a day, but there was periods at Fund One where it just felt like I'm at $2 million raised, and I'm like, I've burned the bridges. I got to keep going. I'm not quitting, but I have no idea how I'm going to get there or I'm going to feed my family. And there wasn't a lot more money. It was like the banana soup moment. Like, all right, you've reached the peak of how much people are going to give you. What else are you going to have to do to get creative around this? And like, there's moments that felt very daunting and scary in fundraising for Fund One, and as do Fund Two. Honestly, like you never know. But there was moments that were pretty dark. Fund One.
Yeah. Third question I'd ask, who would you like to shout out that has been so instrumental and thank for getting to where you are today?
Oh my God. You wanted me short on this? I'll, there's so many people. Like, where do you even start with this? I'll just say one who's been super helpful with all of this is just David Cohen, who was one of our angel. He was the founder of Techstars. He was our angel investor in 2010. Connected us with all of our seed investors. Pulled me into Techstars to run Techstars programs, and then was my first LP in this fund when I got started, and has been a mentor to me as I'm running this fund, probably more so now than even when I was a founder. Has been like just helpful, as I'm kind of fumbling around, being like, what do I do here, And he ran a fund and he invested in a bunch, so he's been really helpful.
Awesome. Shout out to David, shout out to Techstars. And the last is this. You have 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
How do you want them to remember you for this work that you're doing now? How do you want Ethan and Outside to be remembered through their eyes?
I don't know if it's specific through Outside or, the only thing I tell my kids that matters is just kindness. Like, I don't care how smart you are and what you're doing in school. Like, I care that you're kind to other people. And I think, we joke, kids, we have one rule: kindness. Be kind to your brother. Be kind to your sister. And it's like, that's the one we're great at breaking. Like get in a fight or something. But like in general, the kids are incredibly kind. But like that's the thing I would want my kids to know, is that I try to be kind to people, and whether that's through this work or outside of work. I think that's the one thing I try to emphasize with them.
Awesome. Dude, I'm going to leave it there. You're incredibly prolific. Like, you have a pretty good footprint. For those who are listening and you don't follow him on LinkedIn, you should. It will be the best parts of your day. But if people want to get in touch with you, founders, other investors, LPs looking for a Fund 2 opportunity, how would they get in touch with you?
My email is, it's not the same as the domain. The opposite is often true, where people try to go to outsideventurecapital.com and it's just like get a 404 error. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. They're like, I went to your website. Nothing's up. It's just Ethan at outsideventurecapital.com, or I'm pretty responsive to my LinkedIn inbox as well, if that's an easier way to reach me. But I try to be pretty responsive.
Awesome. Listen, man, thank you so much for being on the pod. We have to get together, break bread, do a deal together, ride in the back of a Toyota Corolla or whatever he did again. Thanks so much for being on. It's been a real honor, as always, my friend. And we'll see you out there.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.